Hey guys, this is Mike for KickstartPoker.com, and today I have a 36-player Hyper Turbo Sit and Go knockout game, which is a new format they introduced on PokerStars a while ago. Knockout poker tournaments are a special kind of sit and go tournaments where the prize money is split, with a part going to the overall prize pool and the other part distributed among players for each opponent they knock out. Unlike traditional sit and goes, you don't need to finish in the money to earn a cash prize. This is because every time you knock out an opponent, you get a bounty. You start the game with 10 big blinds and there's antes involved from the first level. So there's no post-flop play really in these first rounds, it's either shove or fold. In some cases you can limp or call to trap with a monster hand, I guess, but in general it's going to be shoving and folding in the first levels. So the first hand we get is Queen 5 suited. There's an open and a raise, so we're not going to play. Second hand is Queen 10. I think this is a standard shove. The big blind is on a random hand. We have less than 10 big blinds. A Queen 10 offsuit is a decent hand. And in these games, you're going to have to shove a lot from the small blind into the big blind when it gets folded around to you. This is because this is a very favorable spot. There's only one player left to shove into, so you have a decent chance that he's just going to fold and you're going to take down the pot. And in many other cases, you're going to have to shove into multiple opponents, which is obviously not as good as shoving into one opponent. So you're going to have to be very wide in your shoving ranges from the small blind into the big blind. And villain folds, and we take the pot down. Jack 8. I think this is a little bit too weak of a hand to shove here, because also we're going into the big blind who has a pretty big stack of 1,000 chips. He's already doubled up, so he's got the chips to call a little bit wider, which means that we have to shove a little bit tighter. And Jack 8 offsuit is just not good enough to shove into two players from the button here. Ace 4 versus an open. We can't do anything here, so we're just going to fold. Deuce 7, we're going to muck that. King Deuce offsuit, we get a walk. Had he shoved, then we definitely would have called, because a lot of players are going to be shoving wide from the small blind into the big blind, and we only have around 5 big blinds left now, so we're really in bad shape and need to chip up, and a king high is good enough to call here. So had he shoved, we definitely would have called. 10-8, we can't do anything here. 4 deuce, we're not going to play. 6-7, this is pretty close, I guess. If this guy hadn't put his last 70 chips in, I may have shoved here. It's a close one. It's only 7 high, but we only have 510 chips left now, so we really need to get going also. But yeah, the big blind only has 300 chips behind, so when he is this shallow, he's probably going to call with a pretty wide range, meaning that we rather shove a hand like ace deuce than 6-7 suited here, because high cards are going to be more favorable against wide calling ranges. So 6-7 suited in general is a nice hand to shove, but if someone is going to call very wide, a 7 high is not going to be ahead most of the time anyway, so we'd rather shove hands like ace deuce or king x hands and stuff like that. So this is just going to be a fold. 7-9 suited, when it gets folded around to us, these two guys just came to the table, so they're out of the hand. And 7-9 suited, we're just in a situation where we're going to have to shove. We only have 470 chips left, and the blinds are already 100, 200. So we're in pretty bad shape here. Our opponent only has to call another 270, so he's getting pot odds of almost 3-1. So we're gonna get called very wide here, but you know we don't really have a choice here other than shoving our 9 high in and just hope for the best. And he actually folds, so he must have had a really bad hand, because he should really call us pretty wide here. 9-5, we can't do much versus a shove. Queen 7. We got to fold. And Queen 7, I decide to shove here. And this is mainly because of the big blind being so short. He only has 70 chips behind. And this is a knockout tournament, so, you know, you have to just gamble a little bit and try to knock other players out, because you get a bounty for knocking each player out, and that's a big purpose of the tournament. And when the big blind is so short, maybe we have a little bit of full equity versus the other players, and we can get the shove through, and we can go all in versus the big blind, and he only has 270. So even if we lose, we're still in the game, and we have a nice chance of maybe knocking him out and getting that bounty. So this is a good spot to shove with our queen 7 off. We don't get it through because the small blind calls, and we win against ace 4, so that's nice. And we don't get the knockout bounty, unfortunately, because the big blind rivers the straight with ace king, but that's all right. 9-10 suited, we can't call here. There's already one player in and another player calling, so we can't really call with 10 high here. Even though we only have 560 behind, 9-10 suited is too weak to call here against 2 other players. Ace 4, and this guy shoves. We really have to call here. We only have 1 big blind left, so we at least have an ace high hand. It's not the greatest hand, but with just 1 big blind left, we just have to call with basically just about anything here to avoid getting blinded out, because we're committed to the pot. And we get lucky versus ace queen, which is nice. So we increase our stack to 1900. King 4 suited, and this guy just puts his last 525 chips in. I'm just going to go ahead and overshove. This guy, he has only 1 big blind left, so he's on pretty much in any 2-card range almost. And a king high hand tends to be good most of the time. The other 2 guys are very short as well. The big blind still has some chips, but he should be calling very tight, so I'm not really too worried about him. This is just another play that I make to hopefully get another bounty. The button and the small blind are very, very short, so they don't really hurt me as much if they decide to call. So I just hope to take down the pot here and hopefully get 1 or 2 bounties as well. I'm lucky enough to hit 2 pair, and it seems that my hand is best, and I also knock out 3 players, so I get 3 bounties at the same time, which is very nice. Then 8-6 offsuit. This guy is just pretty much all in right now, so I'm just going to put him all in for the rest of his chips. And he calls, and we actually win with our 8 high. Then we get moved to another table. 4-5 offsuit. Can't do much here. Just going to fold. Queen 3. I get a walk. 5 deuce. Can't call here. 7-8 on the button. You could shove here, I think, but it depends a little bit if we think we have some full equity versus a small blind and a big blind. They are pretty short, both of them, and they both have about 4 big blinds behind. So I'm not sure. I think 8 high is not good enough to shove here into 2 players. I think both of them are going to call with a pretty wide range, and 8 high is just not going to be good enough to shove here into 2 players. So I'm just going to fold. A7 into 3 players, that's good enough for less than 10 big blinds. And we get a call. And we lose against ace king. A pair of 6s, and the button shoves and the small blind calls. I think this is a call because we only have, 4 big blinds behind. So we're really short, even though it's a triple all in. We're probably committed here, so we should call. And I actually decided to fold, which may have to do with the fact that it was on the bubble right now. So I'm not sure, but I think that was the reason that it probably was the bubble, or that we were getting very close to the money. In each case, that has to be the reason why I decided to fold here, because otherwise it would really be a call. King 8 suited, we're very short. We only have 3 big blinds, and into 2 players, this is really a hand that we have to go with. Otherwise, we're blinding out if we decide to fold here. So I'm just going to shove it in. We get called by 2 players, and we are lucky enough to hit a full house, and we take down a nice pot. Queen 8, the button shoves, and the small blind overshoves. We're going to have to fold here because the small blind has a pretty good hand most of the time if he decides to overshove here. And he has us covered as well, so we're better off folding here and hopefully lose another player. And the small blind indeed had a good hand with ace-king and wins against king-10 suited. And we're heads up now. He shoves, and 8-4 suited is a little bit too weak to call here. We only have 5,800 behind, but still 8 high is not going to be good enough, so we're just going to fold. 9-6 suited is going to be a shove. We get called, and we hit a straight and win against king-10. 10 deuce offsuit is going to be a fold. King-7 is an easy shove from the button for less than 10 big blinds. We get called, and we win against 7-8. And we take down a tournament. So that was the 36-player Hyper Turbo Sit and Go knockout game, and if you ask me, I'm not sure if these games are going to be profitable in the long term because they have a very flat payout structure, which means that instead of playing to get into the money, the best strategy is to also get the bounties and knock other players out, and this stimulates gambling obviously and taking a lot of risks. I've been playing a couple of these games and I've seen very weird things happening, like people overcalling in a 4-way all-in with 7-8 suited and stuff, just to get the chance to knock some players out and get those bounties. And that's also the way that you have to play these games because, you know, the payout structure is very flat, so you're really going to have to rely on getting those bounties and taking a lot more risks and trying to knock other people out. So combined with the fact that you get a very shallow starting stack with 10 big blinds and there's antes from the first level, there's going to be a lot of variance in these games, and I really doubt whether these games are going to be profitable in the long term if you're going to play them more regularly. But they're definitely fun to play. You know, they're very fast and there's a lot of action and a lot of all-ins going on and a lot of people trying to get those bounties. So they're a lot of fun to play, I guess. But if you're really playing poker to make some money, you're probably better off playing other games than these types of games because the variance is going to be very high, and I doubt whether you're really going to make any big profits over the long term with this particular format, with a large part of the prize pool going to the knockout bounties. But they're fun to play, and if you play poker recreationally and are just in it to play for fun and not necessarily for money, these are fun games to play, so you might want to try them out. Alright, that was it for this video. I hope you liked it, and good luck at the tables, guys.